Well, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the country. Good to see you. This is Dr. Jacqueline King, and I'm the CEO and founder of Black Women Empowered. And tonight is going to be off the chart. We have our my favorite psychologist and our mental health moment expert, Dr. Nekeshia Hammond. How you doing, Doc?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. I know this is the night you would normally go live anyway, right?
Yep, yep.
So we're just here. We're here a little earlier, but we're talking about Black women and the trauma that Black women are facing in childbirth and the mortality rates for the infants and um, so let's just jump right in it. So I read an article today that a lot of it, even though a lot of studies show that it could be, high blood pressure or some of the other things, but a large part is just plain old malpractice when it comes to Black and brown women. And I mean, it has to be traumatic. First of all, I've heard some horror stories. I know three women personally, and one of them is a doctor. The other one's
Wow.
an attorney that have gone through this. And what can we do, Doc?
Yeah, it is hard. And you're right. I mean, there's one thing to have the medical component, the physical health component, but there's another thing with racism and discrimination and the things that happen in a lot of hospital settings, unfortunately, specifically with Black women, when it comes to childbirth. So, what can we do about it? We can do a lot of things about it at different levels. I think it's important while we're waiting on the world to change, if you will, it's important within our own communities to make sure that we're doing our best to support one another. I mean, pregnancy in and of itself can be a stressful experience depending on how that pregnancy looks. Childbirth can be a stressful experience. Postpartum can be a stressful experience. Parenting can be stressful, right? So, how can we as a community think about, all right, how can I support this woman? How can I help her? What can I do? It's not always about money. It could be about money sometimes if it's funds, but it's reaching out, it's checking in. What does this person need? And how can I do better to support, knowing that, like you said, we can read the statistics, we can read the articles and those sort of things which are happening, which we need to make changes on that end as well. But while we're waiting, right, what can we do as a community to support one another?
Absolutely. Everybody's coming in. Let us know where you're tuning in from as you come in and share the broadcast. Yeah. I understand that a lot of women are getting like I forget what they call midwives. They're not called midwives, but they're getting additional support to help them through different things. Is that
Mhm.
something that you think would be good?
Yeah, I have heard of that, like getting a doula or
That's
getting
why I couldn't say. I
someone
just
else. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, or getting someone else. I've heard a lot of stories about that. There's a lot of communities that offer different levels again of social support. So at the medical level, there's different ways to get extra support, and then at the community level, right? At the mental health level, like this is a team sport, if you will, right? Like all of us have our different levels of responsibility. But again, watching right now, maybe you're not in the medical community, but we can all do our parts, right, to help each other, especially through this crisis that's going on right now.
When I think about, you know, all the women that have suffered through childbirth and either died or lost a child, so the trauma is real. But then what about the mothers who have not yet gone to the childbirth, haven't had any children? They have to be like petrified knowing these numbers, right?
Yeah, it's really scary. I mean, it's that's one of the hard things about, I mean, statistics are what they are, right? We do the research, we get the numbers. Sure, absolutely. It can be really terrifying and anxiety provoking to see these type of statistics. I'm hopeful that we can work through as a society, though, because sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes with statistics, when they come out, there's different efforts in different communities to work on changing those statistics and making things better now that we've identified there's an issue. Again, it depends on the community. I've seen certain communities around the country that are doing amazing at that, and certain communities that, yes, are still working, that still need some work to make some changes. But it can be absolutely terrifying. I think the most important thing, though, and I think someone even asked in the comments, like, is it better to get a doula rather than going to the hospital for Black women? It's really a personal decision, but hopefully the family's decision, if you will, of what is best. I mean, it's childbirth, so there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of sometimes physical complications, mental health complications. It's an easy pregnancy, it's a difficult pregnancy. There's a lot of different possibilities, but talking with trusted friends, trusted family members, and obviously the women's opinion as well, like all of that, putting it into place and seeing like what's the best thing that I can do to make this, to make sure that I thrive, to make sure that I keep the baby healthy and myself healthy. So those are a lot of questions that really need to be asked. And it really does vary per person.
Yeah. So the whole first of all, it's very emotional even having a child.
Of
I
course.
know.
Of course. Yes.
So do you suggest that, women at least have a psychologist, somebody on hand, because it can be really rough. I mean,
Hmm.
the hormonal changes, the weight gain, all of that, that's a whole lot. And then to have to deal with racism in the middle of that is horrific.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot. It's a lot. Like you mentioned, especially for Black women, we have the stats. What is extremely important is to have support especially during pregnancy, like to make sure you have the support. Sometimes it's in the form of a mental health professional. Sometimes it could be, if someone has a place of worship, it could be with your friends, it could be with your neighbors, your coworkers. Like who is it around you that's supportive of you during this time? Because I remember way back when, my son's almost 12 now, but way back when I was pregnant, I was like, okay, in my mind, I was like, I have to make sure, obviously physically I'm taking care of myself, but also mentally, I was like, what can I do to keep my stress level down right now? What can I do? Who's around me? Thankfully, I had great friends and family members around me to be supportive, but who is around me to support? How can I work on my physical health and mental health during carrying this child? Right. So, those are the type of things we have to be asking ourselves, because it's not just the physical part of pregnancy, like you said, it's the mental health part too, right? Making sure we're mentally healthy and helping to get this child healthy, into the world. So it can be a lot, but it's very doable with the right things in place.
Yeah, and so there are statistics out there that say that some doctors feel like Black women, I guess it goes back to slavery, we can take more pain, and and then that is the worst ever.
That's
You
unfortunate. Yes.
so I think that first of all, we have to be read up, knowledgeable of everything, right?
Hmm.
Know who
Yep.
your doctor is. Know what their what their rate of delivery, and what how many cases have they had where the infant didn't live, or the it's research, right? Study
Yeah.
is right.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely do your research. And it really depends. To be fair, it depends on the community. There's some communities, we're in larger cities, right? We have more um, choices, if you will, or maybe in more rural communities, there's not as many choices. But doing your best to make the choice of who is available, what type of physician or doula, or whomever it is that's on your physical health team, but also making sure to have that mental health team too. Which for many women, I've known of many women who've had therapists during the time of their pregnancy, have had difficult pregnancies for various different reasons, whether it's depression, anxiety, something going on in their lives, and had that in place as well throughout the pregnancy to get them through. So it's just making sure to almost having a checklist and making sure, physically, where am I at? What type of facility am I choosing to have this child? Who is on the medical team, if you will, to deliver this baby? How am I doing physically, making sure I'm taking care of myself, and also mentally and emotionally, how am I taking care of myself and spiritually? But really having that checklist in place, to make sure that you're protecting yourself during this process.
And so we also should know the background of the hospital, wouldn't you say?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, really, really important. And again, it's hard because I've traveled to many different states in the country, and the resources are very different depending on where you live. I've been in the busiest cities and the most rural communities, and just different demographics, and just seeing how different all of these places are. The resources are not the same depending on what community you're in. But again, yes, doing the research, looking at a particular hospital or facility or whatever it is you choose, and hopefully you have a couple of options and you can choose the one that best works for you.
Let's talk about the in the underserved communities. I mean, what are the options?
Yeah, it I feel like I'm saying a lot. It varies. It really does vary though. So I know, like, in our community, so I'm in Tampa Bay area of Florida. For underserved communities, we have like the college, like University of South Florida, for example, and they have a psychiatry program where they have like low cost or like free counseling, that sort of thing. But it depends on the community. Most communities, though, I will say, except for extremely rural communities where they might have only have one mental health provider. Most communities do have resources, but it is a matter of researching and knowing they exist. So right now, unfortunately, in the field, well, I can speak for the mental health field. We have so many resources, but our issue is trying to have the people who need the resources know that the resources are available. So we're unfortunately in that boat, but there's many resources out there. So even looking at, Googling, free counseling or low cost counseling or those sorts of things, and then put in your city and state or wherever you live in the world, putting that into Google, you can find the different resources because they're generally out there.
I noticed that when it comes time to get mammograms, they have mobile mammograms. It would be
Hmm.
nice if they had some mobile, to go into the underserved communities, maybe, mental health, or even
Yeah.
doulas or whatever.
Hmm.
That would be good.
That would be
To
amazing. That
it
would be
would.
absolutely, and I've seen those. I've absolutely seen mobile clinics, and they do exist, not at the rate we need them right now, but they absolutely do exist. The different mobile clinics, I've seen that too, like mobile mammograms, that sort of thing. I've seen that, like different health fairs and things like that.
Mhm.
Sometimes they have that. So yeah, they exist, but not on the scale that we need them to meet the need, unfortunately. But I'm hopeful in the health community that we're working on that. But that's absolutely like the best idea, right? That's the ideal. That we can help as many people as possible.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, so, like, I want everyone to know that this is your body. And if you feel that
Mhm.
something is not right, you need to address it immediately. Don't wait. I had a doctor, actually, I've interviewed her, and she was in the middle of her childbirth, and she was saying that it just didn't feel right. She had had another child, it was her second child, and she called. She kept telling them that she what didn't feel right, and they were like, "Oh no, this is that's fine." Da, 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 da. But it took her husband to ensure that she got the help that she needed, because he noticed that she was in distress. But
Wow.
yeah, so I mean, it's good too to have somebody with you. Maybe you need someone other than your husband in the room. When my daughter had her baby, I was there, and her best friend was there, and her husband. We were all there.
Mhm.
So sometimes, you need a second or third pair of eyes, right?
Yeah, yeah. Again, like who's on your support team? That's what I would call them, and not just for the childbirth, but through the whole pregnancy and the after, right? Like it's a whole window of it's hectic and it's emotional, like you said, and physically and emotionally and mentally and all these things. So definitely thinking about who is on your support team. Who do you want in that room? Who do you need to support you after that baby comes into the world, right? We talk a lot about the pregnancy, but then this little child comes. I still remember, even though my son's almost 12, it was a really hectic time having a newborn. Like it was like I was like, how in the world am I this busy? I felt like I was the busiest ever of my life with this little teeny tiny guy. All right, this little teeny tiny baby, but it was busy, and it was my well, it was my one and only, but the first child, like first experience, it's like, okay, all these new things you have to learn. It's overwhelming. You're tired, you're sleep deprived. All these things are happening physically with your body and emotionally with this new experience. So again, who is on your support team at that time to help you cope with all the demands, the new demands that you're going to have?
Absolutely. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Getting some good comments. Um, Suzanne says virtual may be a solution for mental health. You and I talk about that all the time, but
Yeah.
all states don't allow that, right?
So it's gosh, I'm trying to make a super long story short. So after COVID, thankfully, one positive thing that came out of the global pandemic was that there was more of an appreciation, if you will, for virtual therapy. So even with insurance companies and things like that, people started getting more on board with like, oh, we can help people virtually, which is a great thing. Sometimes a limitation, though, there's a lot of changes being happening right now legislatively, but sometimes it is an issue, though, with certain mental health professionals doing virtual sessions in another state, let's say in the US, because you're not licensed in that state. So there's
Mm.
a conflict. So that becomes a little bit of a barrier, unfortunately. There's some things that are being put into place. But yes, overall, it's a really great thing. I know many people who have done the virtual therapy option. They love it. They're like, I don't have to leave my house and travel an hour away to go see someone. So it works for them. It doesn't work for everybody, but it works for some people um, that enjoy the virtual therapy option. But it absolutely does help with access because there's a lot of different reasons why people aren't able to leave home: transportation issues, physical health issues, mental health issues. So yes, we're able to reach more people, thankfully, with the virtual therapy option.
What about so depression, postpartum, depression, that's real.
Yeah.
Now you got a little baby and then you're feeling fat and all kind of stuff is happening. You used to have an hourglass figure, now it's more like a watermelon. No, I'm just
Yeah.
that might be a that might be a stretch. But all that, and then you like you said, you're sleep deprived,
Yeah.
and then and if you have a colicky baby, forget it. My son cried all the time.
Oh,
Yes.
no.
And he required very little sleep.
Yeah.
I tell people he woke up 2 hours for like 3 years. I think that was an exaggeration, but I promise you, he just would not sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So about that depression, what on top of that, what do you say they can do for that same thing? Get take pills, what?
Yeah, so there's a couple options when it comes to postpartum depression. One is really important because there's just so many changes physically that happen to your body after giving birth. So it's really important to follow up like the physical health visits, like with the physician, because I mean, there's so many things that could be happening. Sometimes people are anemic. Sometimes people have different physical health issues going on after they give birth. So it looks like depression, but it's really something else, like blood sugar issues or iron issues or something else. So step one, definitely go to the doctor first to make sure you're good on that front. If they say though, yep, physically you're good, there's, blood works fine, all of that is good, and you're still feeling that way, then yes, it could be postpartum depression. So then it's really important to get to a mental health professional to see the best way to treat that situation. So sometimes it is medication, sometimes it's therapy, sometimes it's a group. Like there's a lot of different options that can be put into place when it comes to postpartum depression. But the most important thing is to make sure to seek help early, because a lot of women, especially, again, like you said, sleep deprivation, you're worrying about the baby, you're doing all these different things. We don't take care of ourselves in that time period, but that's a really critical time period to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And a lot of, even if, a mom had to go to therapy, for example, I know back when I did therapy a long time ago, at the beginning of my career, I would have people, like, if people wanted to bring in their babies, like new moms, I'm like, sure, go ahead, have the time, the baby's asleep anyway, right, in the therapy session, because they might not have had childcare. Most therapists are okay with that. It's a little tiny baby. Like, again, I mean, people brought in strollers, like all sorts of things, and kiddos were in there, and they were taking care of themselves. The women were taking care of themselves. So it's really important, again, to think about the therapy option or the mental health help, the physical health help, having the team around you to support you, because yeah, there's a lot of different levels to postpartum depression, and we want to not to prevent it from getting so severe that it could impact the physical health of the mom or the baby.
Yeah. So, the best advice we can give, on this crisis, because what it is, it really is a
Yeah.
crisis.
Hmm.
Black women are dying. I saw this story on, I believe it was Instagram. I don't know if you saw it. The mother died in childbirth, and the father was left with a 3-year old or something like that. And he was telling her, or they were telling the doctor that something was wrong, but
Yeah.
she still died.
Yeah.
And so now you got trauma. The dad's expecting trauma, and what do you think that child is gonna gonna grow up, never knowing its mother? It's a triple trickle down effect. It really
Hmm.
is. And it's got to affect the grandparents. And it affects everybody,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. It really does. It's affecting entire communities, right? Because, I mean, I think back to even the George Floyd murder and just how many videos were coming out of people being killed. I mean, not just the George Floyd video, but just killing after killing after killing, and people that look like you, and it's
Hmm.
traumatic to watch. So even now, for Black women, as a Black woman, myself, like, just to hear the statistic, to see, like, this is what's happening. People are dying, people are losing kids, or families are losing their moms. Like, it's a lot. So it really does, it affects the greater community, and of course individual families, the individual, like, so it has very profound effects. The issue too with this disparity that you're talking about is that there's different layers of trauma. So you already have childbirth and trauma, a death or a major illness. You have racial trauma. Like, there's just all these different layers that are happening, which have these profound effect, unfortunately, on, again, on families and the greater community. So that's what makes this really difficult. And the sad thing is, in my opinion, is that a lot of this is preventable, because when you deal with, like you said, people saying, like, hey, there is an issue, I feel that something's wrong, and people are being ignored, and there's malpractice, or people are being discriminated against, or there's prejudice, or all those sorts of things. Oh, it's in your head, or whatever it is that people are being told. I mean, some of these things are very preventable, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is. But, and what makes it worse, because I don't know if you saw it, you probably didn't because you travel so much. But I actually interviewed a couple weeks ago a young lady that dealt with workplace trauma and
Oh.
racism. And
Mhm.
so, with us, in most cases, you got to work while you're pregnant. You, we don't,
Yeah.
most cases, have the luxury of sitting home for
Yeah.
9 months. So if you're dealing with discrimination at work, and you're pregnant, and you're having all that, you need a 24-hour psychologist. I'm
Around the clock.
serious.
I know,
Yeah.
around the clock, right? Yeah, it's, well, and it is. It's a lot. It's a lot. Again, I mean, all the layers, the racial trauma, the family trauma, the physical health trauma, the mental health trauma, the stigma mental health. Like it's so much and it's so heavy, which is why it's important. And I know, obviously there's a variety of people watching this, whether you're pregnant or not. It's really important to make sure you have your support team in place. Like, who is it that is lifting you up? Who is it that's supporting
Mhm.
you? Who is it that's in your corner for your mental health? Hopefully, also, yes, a mental health professional. But while we're working on the stigma of mental health, like who is there for you? Who is checking in with you? Who can you count on? Like, who's your cheerleader? Like, those people. Have those, make sure you cling to those people and have those people in your life to help you get through, well, yes, all the heaviness that exists.
Rachel says, how do you navigate family members or your mother's advice when you know you need professional advice? Now, let me just say, because
Mhm.
Dr. Freddie Haynes out of Texas did one of my favorite clips, especially in the Black church. And we've talked about this before. A lot of times they say you can just pray it away. Oh, child, you'll be all right. I'm pray for you, and you're gonna be fine. And that.
Yeah.
That's a lie from hell.
Yes, it is. It is.
I mean, if you need help, please don't let your family members talk you out of it, because if you need it, you need it. You don't even have to tell them if you don't want to, but
Exactly.
get the help,
Yeah.
because the old school people like, child, you don't need no, how it was, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly right. Again, back in the beginning of my career when I did do therapy, I remember literally people would be like, my fill in the blank, my mom doesn't want me here, or my sister, my brother, or they don't believe in therapy, or all these things. And I'm like, listen, I'm not going to tell them you're here. Um, I have confidentiality. Legally, it's confidential that you're here. So I'm not calling up any of your family members or your friends to tell them you're in therapy. So yeah, I strongly agree with that. Like, don't that can better yourself. You don't have to let them know. And I know people that have not shared, I mean, a whole lot of things about their mental health treatment only because it wasn't looked highly upon by the people surrounding them, right? But if you know, again, if you know you're doing something to better yourself, you're getting treatment to make you happier, more productive, help with the depression, anxiety, racial trauma, whatever it is, which is a great thing. You don't have to suffer. There's no award for suffering, and you can get through that. Then you do that to help in your life and to help you thrive. And unfortunately, sometimes we have to ignore those around us who don't understand the benefits of therapy, or who don't understand the benefits of you working on you to be a better version of who you are.
And Suzanne Haley says, thank you for this conversation. Very insightful. That's what we try to do. We really try to address issues. And this is like a hot, hot topic. Um, we actually are supposed to be working on a podcast addressing women's health issues. There's three of us that are supposed to be working on that, because I feel like we are our sister's keeper.
Yeah.
We're commissioned to. We work better when we're working together. We're
Yeah.
lifting each other up, encouraging, whether it's spiritual, personal or professional. We're all we got.
Yes, and having that safe space, like you said, like having those communities. I can think of several communities that I'm a part of. We have, I mean, all sorts of stuff, like whether it's text messages or WhatsApp groups or group meet. Like, I mean, there's all sorts of different groups and chats, but it's just safe spaces that are being created to just check in with one another. Maybe you're sending a joke and like whatever you need for that group, right? Like there's plenty, I believe there's plenty of people. It may not be your blood relatives, and that's okay. But there's plenty of people out there that are good, that want to be helpful to you, that want to support you. But you have to find those groups, find those individuals, right, and make sure that you help them, right? They help you, and then you can be in a place where you can be supported, because everyone needs that.
We all do, and that's the beauty of social media, that we can turn on the computer and get good information, like from you, Dr. Hammond, every Tuesday night. you take time out of your busy schedule, and I thank you. I know everybody thanks you,
You're
and you give
welcome.
tips on mental health. You've been doing this for a long
A
time
long
now.
time, gazillion years. No, I'm just kidding. I lost track of how many years. It's been a minute.
It's very we appreciate you because, like I said, you don't have to. I think everybody's grown to love you, and and just embrace the fact that you're taking time out to help us through all kind of things. You talk about something different every week, and that's a blessing. So I'm telling you, you need to be sharing this because I'm sure there are people that are not on here that could use this advice. Share the broadcast on your platform, your network, so others can hear it. It's kind of it's 7 o'clock. Some people are maybe just having dinner or getting off from work or whatever, but you can help us help others by sharing this on your network. But Dr. Hammond, this is really good information, and so I think about the doctors again, and I can't emphasize enough to know your doctor. I'll say when I first moved to Indiana, I didn't know any doctors. I just kind of randomly picked a doctor, and the doctor that I picked prescribed prednisone for me. I'm a diabetic. Do you know what prednisone would do to me?
Oh.
Exactly. I'm like, okay, fired.
Next.
You're trying to kill me. uh,
Yeah.
it's good to know.
Yeah.
You don't have to take their word as gospel. If you know that they're giving you something that's not going to work for your body, or you can always get a second opinion, right?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I'm a big advocate for that. Definitely get a second opinion. If you're not sure, and yes, definitely get a second opinion.
Yeah. So what is Rachel saying with the Black History Month? Are you open to host a lunch and learn at an organization at a cost? Mental health is so important. I guess that's for you, Doc.
Sure, send me a message on LinkedIn and we can talk.
She does do speaking engagements. So yeah, send it and give them your website, Doc. So if they want to book you to speak or come to their church or
Bring it
whatever.
in here. Let's see. Yeah, you can go to drnekeshiahammond.com. There's a form on there, and yeah, put in your information. We'll be happy to reach out.
She's all like I can't even keep up with her because she's somewhere different every seems like every day, but that's good. She's still young, she can do that. But
I'm very young. I'm young at heart.
extremely young. If you have questions, go ahead and type them in the comments. We're not gonna stay on here long, but we really wanted to address this because it's
Mhm.
we're an epidemic. Basically, we are, and we have to get the information out. What you need to know about infant mortality and Black and brown women dying in childbirth. It is at a record high. And I actually believe that it's been like this. I think we're just getting more attention on it. What do you think, Don?
That could be absolutely true. I mean, unfortunately, well, fortunately and unfortunately, right? Like everything is about funding, research. When we start to get information, sometimes we get information later, like you mentioned, and it's a phenomenon or something that's been going on for a lot of time. But then when more funding and more research goes into it, we get the new stats that are not necessarily new stats. But the awareness is important. So without awareness, we can't necessarily make changes because we don't know on a larger scale what's happening. So yeah, so it's important that we're getting this information out to start to make the changes that need to be made.
Someone said earlier, is there a directory where you can find doulas? Well, guess what? We have a directory now. And it's going across the
Yes.
screen, Black Women Power Directory. If there are any doulas out there, get listed in our directory. That is the whole purpose of the directory. So you could put your zip code in and find all of the doctors in your area. And they'll all come up, whatever you're looking for, plumbers, motivational speakers. Dr. Hammond is in there.
Yes.
And then you can also follow them on their social media. It's pretty cool, isn't it, Doc?
Yeah, it's really awesome. It's a great platform. It's so comprehensive. I'm like, oh, I love this. So yeah, there's a lot of tools in there for sure.
Yeah. So, if you have a business, go to blackwomenempowereddirectory.com, get listed in there. And how can you join? I'm a doula. It's going across the screen, blackwomenempowereddirectory.com. Go there. And it's very simple. If you are a doula and you're looking for, I don't even know, do doulas get paid? Is this volunteer? I know nothing about a doula. Do you know, Doc?
I believe so. I'll let maybe Latasha can say in the comments. My understanding is it is a paid job, but maybe she can tell us in the comments.
Yeah, I guess. And do you have to go to school for that? It's a Latasha. I don't know.
Latasha.
I mean, I had never heard of a dual. My kids are 46 and 37. Never heard of a doula before. You know.
Yeah.
So, but if you can answer that, Latasha, I would love to know. Um, if first of all, if they get paid, how do you become a doula? Uh, and she's okay. So doula
Yes.
says they get paid. All right. And how do you have to go to school for it? Because I mean, first time I heard about it was recently, honestly. Because I don't have any kids that, I mean, it's been a minute
Young
since
okay.
I had kids. Did they have them when you were pregnant, Doc?
Yeah, they did. They did.
Okay. All right.
They sure did.
Okay.
You can
Is it
also
is it kind of like a chaplain?
no, I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say so. I think it's more I mean it's a support person, but also to my understanding, and again, Latasha would be a better person, but to my understanding, there's a doulas that do slightly different things in the supportive process throughout. So um yeah. But I haven't personally used one, but I've heard really great things. I do know individuals who have and have had great experiences. So it's just again, knowing for you what your needs are, what your feeling is, what's best for your family, what's best. There's a lot of different circumstances again with pregnancy, but knowing what are my options and what can be best for me during this time. And so she said, yes, they get trained and
I
get
saw that.
certified.
Well, you can see at the top of the screen, that's our directory right at the top. It's going across the bottom, but they say it's kind of tiny, but it's big at the top. Go
Mhm.
there and join. And if you have other doulas, have them join, because really what we want to do is fill up the directory with
Mhm.
professionals in every area. And we have like 40, almost 50 categories in there right now that you can go in there. So go to the Black Women Power directory. Check us out. It's really nice, very comprehensive. Even if you're not a doula, you have any kind of business, you can get in there. But Doc, this has been really great. I thank you so much for your time. You don't have to come back on at 8. No, I'm just kidding.
Of course I'm coming back on at 8. Of
Oh,
course.
you are going to come back on
Of
at 8?
course. I can't
Oh,
miss my mental health moment.
I was giving you a break.
No, I don't. I love mental health moment. I love everyone on there. They're amazing. But I wanted to also thank you too, Dr. King, because just as I was saying before, how important it is to be a part of things where you're uplifted, where you're motivated, where you're supported. I mean, your platform that you've established, which is amazing. I love seeing the journey. I love seeing the growth. I mean, millions and millions of people around the world. And it's such uplifting content. Like there's so much negativity that we're surrounded by.
Yes,
The
yes.
world is heavy. It's a lot. Like you just said, the statistics you're talking about, it's just a lot, right? So to have the opposite of that, right? And to have the inspiration and the motivation and all the great things that you bring to the platform and to bring to people globally is really amazing and commendable. So I just wanted to say thank you to you also.
Thank you. It's I always say to God be the glory. He gave me the vision, and
Yeah.
I'm the instrument that he utilized to
I love
bring
it.
um peace and love and happiness and encouragement 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yes.
If you don't follow us, actually when you go to the directory, you can actually click on our Facebook page and be taken right there. We're here on LinkedIn. We're at 269,000
Woohoo!
followers on our LinkedIn page. Yeah, we are really growing, and and we have some great people, and we do great interviews as well. But
Yeah.
Doc, thank you so much. Come back at actually at 8 o'clock, because she's coming back from mental
I'll
health.
be back.
She'll be back. And make sure you are sharing this, because that's the only way you can help us get the word out, by sharing the information that we bring to you. Everybody's not on at the same time. They always can come back, because everything that we do stays pinned to our pages. But you can help us help others by sharing the content. I love you, Doc. You know I do.
You
Doc and I were
too.
together about a week
Yes.
ago in Florida. Had a great time breaking bread and just laughing.
Yeah.
I always look forward to coming to Florida. Uh, God bless you, and thank you, everybody. I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. And until the next time, actually, I'll be back tomorrow at 11 o'clock. We'll be talking about women supporting women is no longer an option. It's a necessity.
Yes.
Okay. All right. God bless. Good night.
Good night.